guys, I'm happy to be here today. I know that I said we were going to do all sorts of things and quilting wasn't one of them. It's a long story, but today we're going to work on some quilting. So I'm quickly going to share this. If you are not watching it live, then you can skip ahead, skip the shares. So it usually takes me a minute or two. If you are live, I'd love to have you check in and say hello. And let me know that you're here, and then we'll chat all about what we're making today and what we're working on. Yeah. Hi, Kelly. So let me really quickly just share this, and then we'll get started. So sorry, my voice is a little bit hoarse. I had a wrench in my plans, and I got strep throat on Monday, so I've been feeling super horrible all week long. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Barbara. So I might be a little hoarse, and I'm definitely going to be drinking a lot more water than normal. Just trying to keep my throat. Good morning, Randy. Good morning, Zila. Shawnee, Oklahoma. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly share this, and then we'll get started. So I don't know, I'm kind of excited, I'm kind of geeking out. We're going to kind of talk about a little bit today the my rainbow Scrappy quilt, which I put the link into the description of the video. Hi, Gina. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Angel. So you guys can find it. And I don't know if you have the Joann app, but I don't know if it still is. I haven't checked this morning, but it was up there at the top of their our current favorites for, it was all weekend, not all weekend, all week this week. So I'm kind of like nerding out, like, eee, they put me on their app. I mean, that's totally nerdy. I know, like, who gets excited about that? But yeah, so if you don't have the app, it's kind of cool. There's tons of cool projects on there, and mine was right there on the front page. If you scroll down past the coupons, which I don't know if any of us ever usually do, scroll down past the coupons, but mine was right there on the front page. So kind of fun. Okay, so one more place. I feel like, never mind, I'm not going to say it. I don't want to jinx it. And the other thing about having strep throat is it just so happened that, thanks Tracy, thanks Jennifer, that I was, I got super sick on Monday, and that's the day my husband left for the full week for a work trip. So I not only had strep throat, but I was doing single mom duty, which can be horribly painful, but we made it. Everyone survived. And here I am. So that's why, like I said, we had talked about all these other things we were going to do, maybe a tote or a skirt, which is a lot of prep work, and I didn't get to that this week because I laid in bed for 3 full days, 3.5 days really. So that didn't happen. So we're going to do some quilting, which actually I'm pretty excited about. So not to diminish the quilting, I really like quilting. So good morning, Wanda. Tracy, he's doing well. He's still in the casts. They'll come off on Tuesday, so we're counting the days. Like, we literally have a countdown every morning. We talk about how many days now. So that's good. I'm excited to get those casts off. So today, you could have a regular iron. I've got my easy press. I've got my rotary cutter. My rotary cutter? Yeah, my rotary cutter. I'm pointing to this, calling it a rotary cutter. This is not a rotary cutter. I've got my mat. My rotating cutting mat is what I meant to say. My rotary cutter. Always have to have some scissors nearby. My wonder clips. Those things I've all got. We're going to do 2 separate things. So in the links, in the description of the video, you'll find one link to my rainbow Scrappy quilt, which is super fun. We're not going to go through the whole thing today. We're just going to talk about technique a little bit. And then the second link is for a popsicle quilt block pattern that I did on Polka Dot Chair. I don't know if you guys follow Polka Dot Chair, but she was actually one of the original sewing bloggers that I that I followed. Oh yeah, I had my 2 cups of coffee, Jennifer, don't worry. She was actually one of the first sewing quilting bloggers that I followed. And so that was another pinch me moment now that I contribute to her site. So I had contributed this popsicle quilt block, and we're not going to do the popsicle part. If you want to do the popsicle, you can go to that link, and there's the cut files or the printables, so you can create the popsicle appliques. But we're going to make the quilt block that goes underneath and just talk about some basic quilting stuff with that. And then we'll do a little bit of just like, I'll show you kind of my process and how I make the Scrappy, different strips of Scrappy fabric for the Scrappy rainbow quilt. So those are the 2 things we're going to work on, a little bit of quilting, and then we will do those other things I talked about last time when I actually have time to sit down and prepare, which maybe won't be this summer because I forgot how crazy intense summer is with children because they're insane, and yeah. Okay, so here's what we have. I've already cut the pieces. We've got 2 squares, 2 big squares, and the nice thing about this, you could do this in any color combination. I like a white with a solid and pops of one pop of color, so I'm doing orange with white, which I also did in the tutorial. I think what it is I really like this fabric, this one, so I wanted to keep using it. It's kind of like a batik-y. Do I have a big piece of it? I'm trying to find a big piece of it. Okay. It's like, here's a longer strip. You can kind of see like a batik orange. I just really like it, and I think it's fun, so I wanted to use it again. And orange is fun and summery, and I needed some fun summer in my life. So that's what we're using. And then, so we've got 2 big squares. You'll find all the measurements in the blog post. 4 of the littler squares, and 1 long strip. And like I said, you can mix it up on the colors. You could do the Scrappy technique we're going to do later to make these different pieces. Like if you wanted to, you could piece together this long strip before you sew everything together. Like make this striped or whatever. There's so many, that's the thing I love about quilting is there's so many fun options. As long as you get to the right size in the end, like as long as you have a 2.5 or 3.5 by 12.5 piece at the end to fit in the puzzle, it doesn't matter what that piece is made up of, so it's kind of fun. Sorry guys. So we can get started. And with this one too, like I have it put together a certain way, but the puzzle pieces will fit together other ways. Like you could put the long strip on the end and then piece them together like this. You can you see right? And piece them together like this, something like this. And use a different color combination, or you can put the strip here, or you could put the smaller pieces in the middle and do all different colors and do them a different way. So there's lots of different options for how you could put that together. So I'll go ahead and get started and show you. For the just regular quilting with cotton, quilting cotton, I am just going to use my 1/4 inch foot and just regular old all-purpose white polyester thread is what I'm using. I stocked up on the Memorial Day sale. I stocked up on the big old honkin' Gutermann. I go through these like crazy, and so I stocked up on the white, black, and cream when Joanne had a big sale for Memorial Day. So that's all I'm using. I'm just using white. And we'll just start by piecing them together. And my favorite thing to do when I'm quilting, and the thing that I think is the most time efficient and supply use efficient, is to chain piece. So that's a big thing, and you might see that if you're reading any sort of quilting patterns. It's called chain piecing, which just means like you sew as much as you can each time. So we'll sew this, and you put together as many things that can go together as possible each time. And like if you were making a bunch of these blocks, you'd cut all of these squares at the same time, then put them all together and sew them all at the same time. So you don't do one block at a time. If you're making an entire quilt, like do all your cutting together, do all your sewing together, do all your pressing together, then repeat, if that makes sense. So I'll show you. So we're just, and this is straight. This fabric is totally tripping me out. It looks so crooked, like just the way, I mean, because the lines are all zigzaggy, it really, I was cutting it and I was like, this is not straight, but it's totally straight all the way around. It just doesn't look like it's straight. It's crazy. Anyways, so we'll get started. And make sure you use, the other super important thing about quilting is to be sure to use the exact seam allowance. So if it calls for a 1/4 inch, be sure to use that because that's what's been factored in. Hi, Dee Dee. Be sure to use whatever seam allowance has been factored in so that it turns out so that the puzzle pieces fit together. And then you can pin if you want or clip. These Wonder clips work really well. But another trick that I like that seems to work awesome for quilting is when you press 2 pieces of cotton together at the same, when you press them at the same time, they really seem to they stay together. They're much more likely, they don't move around as much. They're kind of, I don't know, something about the heat gets them to kind of hang out together, so you don't have to worry as much about them moving. And if you're really good, which I used to be when I was doing a lot more quilting, you could just have a whole pile of these and you don't even have to stop the machine, you just keep going. But I haven't wanted to press these together too. So then, see, we haven't cut it each time. We have just this one long piece that's ready to go. We can cut those apart. There's lots of different ways. I actually have a little tool for if you're actually doing a lot of quilting that you just like, it's called the gypsy cutter. You just go and cut them all apart. You could also use your sewing machine. Knife, the one that's right there on the end of the machine for your thread. Okay, so then now we've done all the sewing we can, we're going to press all of these pieces while we can. I like to press, I usually just press to the side. I don't press open, so pressing to the side just means you take the whole seam and you press it over. You can, Shirley, if you swipe the words to the side, you can watch comment free. That's a good tip for everybody because yeah, this is right there where all the words are, but you should be able to swipe them to the side. I don't know if it's right or left, and then you'll be able to see and you'll watch comment free, which I know can be really annoying. Those comments can be. There aren't always a lot of them, but they can be right in the way. So just swipe them to the side either way, and it should be, let me know if that works. If you can watch comment free so you can actually see. Okay, so you can press to the side like that. Some people prefer to press open, which just means, and sometimes I do that if I'm doing like paper piecing. Pressing open means this. I'll show you. Let me lift it up so you can see. Quiet mode, right swipe. Thank you guys. So pressing open means that we would press the seams open like that, and pressing to the side means like this. And if you're pressing to the side, I have a shirt actually that says quilters always press to the dark side. Press it to, like, since we have white and orange, press it to the orange side because it's more likely to show through the white side. Like, you can kind of see, if you pressed it to the white side, you can kind of see it through there. If you press it to the orange side, it's much less visible. So I'm going to press all of these to the side, to the orange side. My kids are fighting, which is lovely. They'll work it out, right? We're ready to get those casts off because we can't really leave the house, which is driving everyone insane. So then just make sure, sometimes if it's, sometimes I'll press it on both sides. So I'll just flip it over to make sure that the seam is nice and flat. And when you're pressing for your quilting, be sure to just press down. You don't want to ever like press like this and drag, because that'll really warp the seam. So just press down. So make sure that you can finger press it to get it flat like you like it, and then just press down with your iron or whatever you have, easy press, so that it's nice and flat. And I'm going to do the same on both of these. And it's nice when your mat or ironing board is hot, makes the finger pressing easier. So this will sit nice and flat for me since my pad is nice and hot. My pressing mat. I'm just going to throw words out there until I say the right one. I'm just going to keep talking. So yeah, you'll see I just press straight down. So hopefully you guys were able to find comment-free or quiet mode. It's nice. It's nice when you're watching something that a ton of people are watching too, because it's like, oh my gosh, stop talking. I can't see anything, and it's so distracting from what you're watching. So then we'll press those. We'll press them here too. Okay. Next, we can put a few more things together. I'm using you. Sure, no problem, Shirley. Okay. It's a good tip to know for future Facebook Lives too. So now we're going to put these two together. So this is not technically a quilting tool. It's actually a Cricut Easy Press. And it was originally designed for vinyl and like iron-on shirts type of thing. But I really like it for my quilting because it has a nice firm pressure, and I can get big quilt blocks. Like with my iron, you have to do a lot, but I can get a nice big space. So I use it and it's cheaper than the super fancy irons that you can get. It's not cheap, but it's cheaper than an iron you might think about purchasing at the store. That's specifically designed for quilters, the fancy ones. So then we're going to put our long strip to this one. And if you're real crooked, you'll want a square. Or if you have a big overlap there. Apparently I did not cut this to the right length. I don't know what I was thinking. I can square it up afterwards. So if you have that problem, I'm just going to leave this off the end. So I just have that bottom to square. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I'm still not quite recovered in my brain. I feel like you lose a lot of brain cells when you get sick. So I have my two things prepped to sew, and we're going to go back to the sewing machine. Scoot this stuff out of the way. I feel like I do a little dance every time I quilt, like let's move things around in a circle. So, again, and if you don't follow the seam allowance super well, you'll have a lot more squaring to do. Your seams won't line up quite perfectly. Your puzzle won't fit quite perfectly. I used to be the master of like fixing it because I'm horrible. I still am horrible at using the exact seam allowance. Oh, that one popped under there. So I still am pretty good at fixing when I mess up on my seams. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, it's the Cricut Easy Press. It's so funny. That's the thing I always get the most questions about. So now we've got our four small pieces put together here. And again, I'm going to press to the dark side here. It's totally a preference thing. Some people would press this way so that all of them were going in the same direction. That's kind of helpful when you're sewing it to this bigger piece, but I'd rather just go based on the color. Come on, stuck. There we go. So, and you can kind of hear how heavy it is. It's kind of a nice weight, so you don't technically have to hold on to it. And I won't tell you how I know, but it's not going to burn your fabric. if you leave it for too long, if you forget. Or I'm the queen of like, I can really quick finish this while that's pressing. I want to press it for like 30 seconds. I'll finish this other thing. And then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I was pressing. I forget. My brain. I get tired. So, I have that little overlap. I'm just going to snip it off while it's still here. Straighten it there. Because I have that bottom edge as my straight line. Get that piece off. There we go. And then we'll open this up. And again, we're going to press. And when you have multiple seams like this, I like to press towards the less complicated side. So since we have this seam already, I wouldn't press here because that makes it really bunched up right in that square where those meet. So I'm going to press it towards this piece because there's not any piecing on that side. And it's also the darker side, which it doesn't always work out that way. So the order of importance is less complicated and then color for me. Like when there's just two, I go based on the color, but when there's a bunch like this, I go on based on how many things are already there. So I want this to be as flat as possible, that seam. It helps in the quilting later. If you press it this way, there's just a big bump here that you can feel when you put your finger on it. So press it towards this center square. And we'll do the exact same thing with that bigger piece, with the piece of the strip of the small pieces. We'll press it towards this seam in the center so that it doesn't create a bunch of huge bumps. And then I'm just going to flip this one over and make sure I like the seam, that it's flat. Hi, Jackie. Ooh. Got like a thread coming out there. So I do. So here's this one that we've got. Hi, Melissa. So this is what this piece we've got here, and then we've got this piece as well. So we're just gonna, and like I said, you could put this together a bunch of different ways. You could put this over here on this side so that it would look something like this, but I like this strip in the middle, so I'm gonna line it up like that. Yeah, like that. And I'm just gonna clip it in place. Sometimes I like, if I'm using clips, I like to clip where the seam is so that I make sure and look that it's lined up. Threads and everything coming. I don't use steam, like for the same reason as that I don't like drag the iron, because that really, it can warp the fabric and warp the seam, so you'll get like rippling and it won't lie as flat. So steam, no. When I'm pressing the fabric before quilting, if there's like a really like stubborn wrinkle, you can shoot it with your water spray. I have this guy here where it's just water in here, so if there's a really stubborn wrinkle, I'll just give it a light misting of water, and then again just press straight down, not like towards anything, because fabric is really like, it has some movement when you press it, especially when it's wet. So I don't use steam. There's some things like, there are some interfacings I think that you have to use steam for, but the interfacing I use typically is heat and bond, and you don't need steam for that one. think this is a really fun quilt block. And I like easy ones that are just easy shapes. Those really appeal to me. I think because they're not fussy, which I like. I like not fussy things. Okay. Put these away. Bring this back. So then I'm gonna press these open, and then we'll see where we need to square to finish the block. I'm coming. It's a little bit crazy. So like I said, you can see there's all these seams over here. Like these would be really bulky if we press towards them. I'm gonna press towards the middle again. And I like to just finger press, make sure it's lying flat before I actually press. You can kind of, you don't want to tug too hard, but you definitely don't want to pull on it after it's hot, because that will again warp and make everything not straight. Just messes with the fabric, and then it'll be hard when it's hard to quilt. My friend Monica does quilting for people's quilts, and she's like, that's one of the hardest things is so many people's aren't flat. Because they haven't been pressed flat, when you quilt, it kind of like causes it causes it to move out, and then you get bunches and stuff. So it can be difficult. It's a learning process. But that's why I always just press straight. Hi Tina. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, this is, today we're doing a little bit of quilting. We kind of do a little bit of lots of different things, but I always try and focus on things that are easy and that beginners can do. This one is just all straight seams, and then all my, random ramblings about quilting. Hopefully there's some tips in there. I'm just going to press the top again. See, it's nice and flat. Hi Vicky. And then this is what we will have. And then we'll want to square it up too. I just really like this. I don't know. I just feel like this one's fun. You could use it any way you wanted. If you lined them up in different colors, you could have a long strip that's like a rainbow colors, or you could line them up, multiple blocks up in different ways so that the stripes go more in a square. There's lots of fun options. Really basic, lots and lots of squares and stripes, rectangles, I guess. So then to square it, I'll show you how to square it. It's not super crooked, but you'll definitely, if you're making a full quilt, you'll want to always square everything so that it's perfect. So typically what I do is I'll start with this seam here, and because I want to square, I want this to look nice and straight, so I'm going to square based on that on either side. So I'm going to I'm going to line that seam up with the 6 on here. Just pick a straight line so that the top is lined up with the 6, the line of the 6, and the bottom is lined up with the line of the 6. And then I'm going to find where where it's overlapping here and make sure this is straight. So I try and make the smallest cut possible. So right here on the 12 is good. And then we'll just square that off. And then now you have a straight line to square based off of. So I always do that. I forget that I have this super fun. Oh, that's why. I was like, why was my thing so crooked? Okay, it was because I was like, I cut it off the edge, and this is a 13-inch, 11, 12, I don't know, maybe not, who knows. Okay, so I'm just gonna line this up now that I have that straight edge, and trim it up, square it up. and then keep turning. That's the thing I love about this. You just turn it, you don't even have to move it. And we've got these two straight lines, so make sure that like this one's still lined up down here, so we're going to use that as our square, and then find the farthest point we can to cut it. Make sure we're on the right bit here. Okay. And then last time, we'll turn it one more time. And I might just scoot it so that I can cut right on that 12. Make sure everything's still lined up. I know, I love this mat. It's so nice. I always forget to turn it. And I'm like, dang it, it would have been so much easier if I hadn't forgotten. Okay, so then we've squared it all. It's square all the way around, and it's nice and straight. And I like to do that on blocks that you can, where it's straight based on the lines in the quilt itself. So if we'd squared it on something else, it would be square, but it might be like off kilter, if that makes sense. So that's why for the first one I like to kind of, if I can, start with something within here to square off of. It's not always possible, but if you can find a straight line to use in your quilt block, then that's a good method to do. Okay, so that one's done. And like I said, the link for this is in the blog post. It's the one called the Popsicle Quilt Block. I don't know why that was so hard to say. And there is a link for some popsicle appliques in that post if you're interested. But I just like this, just the basic quilt block too. It's kind of fun. It would be fun to do a whole quilt of just oranges. I'm loving orange right now. So one more quick thing I wanted to talk about is just I kind of like to do, this is when you're using scraps, I don't want this, it's fun to just put them together in random ways. And there's a fun block called a log cabin block that you can do that's really fun to make. But for my Scrappy rainbow quilt, which is also linked, you can see I just did strips of color pieced together with different varying colors. So I just wanted to show you kind of how that process works. There's no rhyme or reason, really. You can use any size. You just have to square after each time. So, and then I wanted to play with this one too. This one's fun because it's really fun on the front, but the back is also a really pretty color. And when it's when you're using it, you'll just barely get the hint of that fabric that's under the pattern that's underneath. So it's a really muted pattern. So I'm going to use it backwards too. So I guess we'll do purple. I had blue out too, but I like the purple right at this moment. So I'm just going to take two pieces, and like I said, they don't have to line up. Like, you could sew this one to this, however you want. You could do it in triangles, you could do it in curves if you're familiar with curves. So I'm just going to sew these two pieces together, and then I'll show you. We'll square it up, and the nice thing about this is you don't have to be as finicky about your seams. Because the only thing that matters is the end size. So it doesn't matter what size seams you use. You might just, if you use too big of seams, you'll have to add more fabric, because there's really no rhyme or reason. And I also like to sometimes I'll just pull out my scrap bin and just randomly pick, and I keep my press right here too so that I can press them. I've already pressed all these because I'm not great about my scraps, and so they're always like super wrinkled and crazy. So these I've just sewed together like that. That's not a way you would normally sew them together, but that's how we did it. So then we'll press it, square it, and add another piece. So it's kind of just a fun way to just throw them together however you feel like it. It's kind of a freestyling, which I like. Or you can also go in with, if you look on the blog post for that quilt, there were some that I had, I did squares and strips, so you can go in with kind of an idea, or lots of tiny little strips to make like look like a fence post or something. There's lots of fun options, but sometimes I like to just throw them together and see what comes out. And for this too, like, it doesn't really, you could square it however you want. Like, you could square it, you know, diagonally if you wanted. So, you know, you can think outside the box. You don't have to square it straight on so that it's a straight line like that. You could square it so that it's like, goes like that, like it has a little angle a little bit, so it's not necessarily just four, you know, of the same colored piece. So let's see, if I had a piece big enough, I could show you what I'm talking about. We can add different colors, right? It doesn't have to be rainbow. So let's do that. I'll show you. It's just fun. It's fun. We'll add the purple and the blue together. So we're kind of just gonna, I'm gonna square it like that so that it's got kind of a slope to it. And then we'll find a piece in here that we like. That's big enough. Some of these might be too big, but that's okay. We can square them up later. So then I'll take this piece and line it up and sew that in place, and then we'll square that as well. Okay, so then let's press it. And you could keep going indefinitely. You'll get to the point where you don't have pieces that are big enough to cover the whole side, so you'll have to piece pieces together to make a long enough strip to cover everything. And that's where I typically stop. I like it to be freestyle, but not that crazy. But that's just a personal preference. So then, and this one is kind of a messier. Thank you, Patty. This one is from, I've talked about it before, there's a movement called Hustle Kindness. And this is from her t-shirt line. So I've been trying to be super mindful about being kind and spreading kindness. And so I like to wear them on my live sometimes, just to share that message with you guys. So thanks for noticing. And then once we square this, you'll see it's kind of fun to do it at an angle so that it adds a little bit of dimension. So that's what we have. Then we'll add another bit of something to the end of this, if we can find it. What we want to use. Where do we have something? This one is a pretty good size. We'll have to, where to use that? Don't want to use that again. I'll use this, and then I'll have to cut it off, but that's okay. So I like to, I think this is fun. I just like to play around. I hope it's not horribly boring. I need to figure out a better system for this. Let's go like this. This is a piece that I used for that bigger quilt that is already pieced together. I lost my thread. So I'm using a scrap from my other quilt on this one. Sorry guys, I wasn't paying attention. I lost my thread. Okay. Quickly throw this together. this kind of quilting is kind of, it's a little bit more thoughtful. You have to take a little bit more time and kind of plan where you're going, and think about your choices a little bit more, which is nice. I guess it's not more thoughtful, it's just thoughtful in a different way. It's not, you don't have to think about it ahead of time. You kind of get to think about it in the moment and see where it takes you. So it's just a different, it's just a fun kind of creative, free thinking creative process. So I enjoy doing that sometimes. Not really having a plan in mind, not really knowing necessarily where it's going to go. It's just, it'll go where it wants to go. I don't know, I'm going full hippy-dippy on you there. But you can see this was this was a piece from the other quilt that I made, but that was, I keep everything. It's a problem. You know, you guys know it's not good. Okay, so I'm just gonna, why? Oh, I guess that's not completely and totally straight. So let's straighten it up here a bit. And then I'm just gonna cut it towards the seam here. I did feel like, that's not gonna work. It was really nice. One of the things about lying in bed for so many days was that even though I was sick, I kind of had a chance to rest my creative brain, and it was like when I got up, I was excited and ready to sew. So I kind of was feeling, I guess I was feeling burnt out, and then this kind of, it inspired me. So we just added this piece. Let's find another fun piece to add here. I'm gonna add it on the bottom, right here. And you can just keep going as long as you want. It's fun to do lots of these blocks and then put them together. I guess that's not really a straight edge. Sometimes you think it's straight and it's not. Oh. Hold on, not right now. Give me a couple minutes.
Why?
Because I'm not done.
Still making a video?
Yep. Don't step on my computer, please.
How are you making a video?
It's on my phone right there. Please stop. Go on. I'll be out in a couple minutes. Okay, so then we're ready to see how that turned out. So I'm going to press that open, and you get like this whole pile of scraps just lying around. And then you save them and you make one of these, but even smaller. Or maybe that's just me that does that. Mini versions of these. Have you seen, are you ever on Instagram? There's like this trend that's like super mini quilt blocks, and it's like, they're like inches, like tiny, like 1 inch, maybe 2 inches, which is crazy. I don't understand how that is a thing. That's patience right there, and attention to detail. Okay, so I'm just gonna square this up, and then if you guys have any questions about this, I think I'm going to wrap it up. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or just general quilting questions if you have them. They don't necessarily have to relate to this so much. But now you can see, let's see, what do we have here? 8. So I think, let me square this to here. I'm gonna square this side. So then you can see, now we have a nice, what will be an 8-inch, this can be an 8-inch quilt block. So what do we have here? I'm just gonna scoop that and give myself 8. Do you include the line in the measurement when you cut? The line on the ruler. I'm not sure what I guess I don't understand the question. Help me out with the question. Say it a different way. I use both the lines. So I typically measure based on my mat, and I've had comments about that before because sometimes the mats are a little off, but my ruler lines up perfectly with my mat, so I trust this mat. Anyways, so I line it up on the mat, so I count here, so I know I want it to be 8. Then I put the lines down, and I use my straight edge to make sure that the line is all the way down and straight on the 8 or whatever number you're using. And I'll show you something about this ruler that I really like. So now if you were making a quilt with 8-inch blocks, you've got one 8-inch block ready to go. And it's just kind of, no 2 of your blocks will be the same. They're just random. It's super fun. The thing I like about this ruler, so it's easy to do 8, but then if you wanted to, if you're doing a half measurement, like you have to line it up, and it's like on this mat, it's just dots, which is hard to get straight. But this ruler, if you flip it over, you can see right here, this purple is a half-inch line. So when you line it up, like let's say you're cutting 8.5, if you line it up again, all the lines so they're straight, and you have a straight line on the 8, your half-inch is already built in. So you can measure. So sometimes you'll see me, like when I'm cutting, I'll cut like this, then I'll flip it because I'm cutting halves. So that's nice. That's the nice thing about this ruler. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Beth, but if you still have a question, you can message me, and I'm happy to answer. I'll respond if that didn't answer what you were asking. So yeah, we made 2 quilt blocks today, 2 different ways. This was from a pattern. We measured it out. We had it planned ahead. We knew where the puzzle pieces were going to go and what sizes they needed to be. It was a very specific thing. Then we made kind of a freestyle. This is almost a log cabin, I guess. If you look up log cabin, it starts with a square in the middle, and then you kind of build on it and go around. It goes the other way, like that. So it kind of goes in a circle, a log cabin, but ours is kind of a funky, freeform, random log cabin. So if you share this video, you'll be able to find it later and check back and see anything you missed. You can, if you look in the description of the video, there's the link to both blog posts. We did a Scrappy rainbow quilt with a similar technique to this, where we pieced together random pieces to make the rainbow quilt, and that's on there. That's the one that's on the Joann app. If you have the Joann app, which you should, because there's tons of amazing coupons on there. That one was featured on there. I guess I should check and see if it's still on there before I say anything. It's kind of like the app I go to the most. But, oh, it's still on there. So if you open your Joann app, first of all, sale, hello, then you scroll up. These are all coupons, and then current favorites. Look, there's our Scrappy rainbow quilt right there. So that's the one we kind of worked on a little bit today. And then this is my friend Corey's. She made those fruit bookmarks. Aren't they cute? Her site is Hey Let's Make Stuff if you want something. She also has sharks that are super adorable. Random, but anyways, that's that's the Cricut app. And then you can click, not Cricut, why did I say Cricut? Joann. You can click View All Projects, and you can find a category and scroll through some of the other things. And this is, you guys could like upload projects on here if you have projects that you're working on. So there's some other fun things on there too. If you're looking for inspiration, or if you're in the store wandering around and you need to buy something but you don't know what you want to make, you can check the app for inspiration. So, and the second one is this one. It's on the polka dot chair blog. The link is also in the description. And it has a popsicle applique cut file and PDF if you want to cut them by hand on there too. So those are the 2 blocks we made today. I also linked to my Amazon store. If you guys are looking for the supplies, I have all the supplies I use on the Amazon store. So if you have any questions, Beth, if my answer didn't help, make sure you shoot me a message, and I will respond to you on Facebook here on Sew with Alicia. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye.